The worst pain isn't the burning in your spine or the fire in your legs. It's the sound of your own daughter's voice screaming that you're faking it all for attention, while you're dragging yourself across the floor like an animal. It's waking up and realizing your wheelchair is gone, not stolen by some stranger breaking in during the night, but sold by your own child for $250. It's the moment she looks you dead in the eyes and says, "You don't need it anyway, Mom. Stop playing victim." That's when I knew. That's when I understood I wasn't safe in my own home anymore. That's when I crawled to the phone and made the call that turned my daughter's face white with terror. This is what happened. My name is Elena Hayes. I'm 53 years old, and 5 years ago, my entire life changed in the time it takes to blink. I wasn't always disabled. I used to run marathons. I taught yoga classes on Saturday mornings. I hiked mountains and danced at weddings and never once thought about what it meant to simply stand up. Then came a rainy Tuesday evening, a distracted driver checking his phone, and the sickening crunch of metal that rewrote everything I thought I knew about my future. The impact crushed 2 vertebrae in my lower spine. The nerve damage was catastrophic, irreversible. 8 surgeries. 2 years of physical therapy that left me sobbing into my pillow at night. And finally, the words no one wants to hear. "You'll never walk normally again, Mrs. Hayes." Some days, I can manage a few shaky steps with a walker, my legs screaming in protest. Most days, I need my wheelchair. It's not a choice. It's not something I can overcome with positive thinking or determination. It's my reality, and I've learned to accept it. But learning to accept it and having someone else dismiss it as fake, those are 2 very different kinds of pain. Vanessa was 26 when the accident happened. My daughter, my only child, the person I'd poured my entire life into after her father walked out on us when she was 12. I worked 2 jobs to put her through college. I wore the same coat for 6 winters so she could have new clothes. I gave up a promotion that required relocation because she'd begged me not to make her change schools. She was everything to me, and I genuinely believed I was everything to her too. I was wrong. When the accident first happened, Vanessa seemed like the daughter I'd always known. She called from her marketing job in Portland, her voice thick with tears, promising she'd come visit soon. Those first 6 months she came twice, stayed a few days each time. But I noticed something during those visits. The way she'd check her watch when I talked too long about my physical therapy. The way she'd disappear into her phone when I needed help reaching something. The tiny sighs that she thought I couldn't hear. I made excuses for her. She's processing this. She's scared. She's busy with her career. That's what mothers do. We protect our children even when the evidence starts piling up that maybe they don't deserve it. The calls became shorter. The visits stopped altogether. Then 2 years ago, she lost her job. She called me sobbing at 2 in the morning, saying she was going to be evicted, that she had nowhere to go. I didn't hesitate. "Come home," I told her. "Move in with me. We'll figure it out together." The insurance settlement from my accident meant my house was paid off and I had enough to live comfortably. I thought having her close would fix what felt broken between us. I thought this was our second chance. God, I was naive. The first month was almost normal. Vanessa helped with groceries, drove me to doctor's appointments, even cooked dinner a few times. I let myself believe we were healing, that my daughter was back. Then the comments started, little cuts disguised as jokes. "Must be nice to just sit around reading all day," she'd say when she caught me with a book. "Some of us actually have to work for a living," she'd mutter when I asked if she could help me reach the detergent on the top shelf. Each comment was small enough to dismiss individually, but together they formed a pattern I couldn't ignore. The truth started becoming clear. Vanessa wasn't job hunting seriously. She'd sleep until noon, scroll through social media for hours, go out with friends while I figured out how to manage everything alone. She treated my home like a free hotel, and me like an inconvenience she occasionally had to tolerate. When I gently suggested she might want to create a more structured job search schedule, she exploded. "You don't understand anything about the modern job market, and it's hard to focus when I have to take care of you constantly." Take care of me? I cooked my own meals when I could reach the stove safely. I managed all my medications. I handled my own personal care. Yes, I needed help with some things, high shelves, heavy items, getting in and out of the car, but I never asked for anything I could do myself. Her words felt like a slap, but this was my daughter. I loved her, so I apologized. I actually apologized for being disabled. That moment haunts me now, the moment I accepted blame for something that was never my fault. Everything got worse 8 months ago when Brad entered the picture. Vanessa met him on some dating app, and within a week, he was practically living at my house. Brad was 34, drove a leased BMW he couldn't actually afford, and talked endlessly about cryptocurrency and passive income streams. He'd never held a real job as far as I could tell, but he had opinions about everything, especially about me. The way he looked at me made my skin crawl, like I wasn't even a person, just an obstacle in his path to free rent and easy living. I finally worked up the courage to ask Vanessa if Brad could maybe limit his visits. Her response was volcanic. "You've never liked anyone I've dated. You're just jealous because I have someone and you're alone." She screamed it at me like I was a stranger, not the woman who raised her alone, who sacrificed everything so she'd never feel the absence of her father. Brad stood behind her during this tirade, arms crossed, wearing this smirk that told me exactly who was poisoning my daughter against me. Then I heard them talking one night. They thought I was asleep, but I'd just taken my medication and was drowsy, not unconscious. Brad's voice carried from Vanessa's room. "Your mom's playing it up, babe. I've seen her move around when she thinks no one's watching. She could get a job if she wanted to. She's milking that settlement money and guilt-tripping you into being her servant." I held my breath, waiting for Vanessa to defend me, to tell him he was wrong, that he didn't understand, that her mother wasn't faking. Instead, she sighed and said, "I know, it's so exhausting." Something died in me that night, some fundamental trust, some core belief that no matter what, my daughter loved me. It just died. After that conversation, Vanessa stopped pretending. She started openly questioning my disability. She'd put items I needed on the highest shelves, then act annoyed when I asked for help. "Can't you just stand up for 2 seconds?" she'd snap. She'd make plans without telling me, taking the car when I had medical appointments scheduled. Once, she moved my wheelchair into the garage overnight, claiming she needed the space in the living room for some exercise routine she never actually did. The next morning, I woke up trapped in my bed, calling for her, panicking as minutes ticked by with no response. When she finally came, 20 minutes later, reeking of cigarettes, she found me clinging to my walker, having painfully maneuvered myself out of bed. "See," she said, that cruel smile on her lips, "you're stronger than you pretend to be. You got yourself up just fine." I wanted to scream at her, to tell her that those 20 minutes of terror and pain proved nothing except that desperation can push you past your limits. But I didn't. I was afraid of making things worse, afraid of pushing her away completely, afraid of being completely alone. I started documenting everything in a journal I hid in my nightstand. Every incident, every cruel comment, every dollar I gave her for job interview clothes that she never wore to any interview. I kept my important papers, my medication, some emergency cash in a lockbox under my bed. Some instinct was screaming at me to prepare, to protect myself. I didn't know what was coming, but I knew something was. 3 weeks ago, Brad moved in permanently. No discussion, no asking. He just showed up with boxes and announced he'd given up his apartment. "Makes more financial sense," he said, walking through my house like he owned it. That night, I heard them fighting in Vanessa's room. Brad's crypto investments had crashed spectacularly. He was in serious debt, and Vanessa had lent him money, my money, thousands of dollars I'd given her for networking expenses and career coaching and various other lies. The pit in my stomach grew deeper. How much of my settlement had already disappeared into his schemes? The next few days felt apocalyptic. Brad and Vanessa would stop mid-conversation when I wheeled into a room. They'd exchange looks loaded with meaning I couldn't decipher but knew was about me. I started locking my bedroom door at night. The atmosphere in my own home felt predatory, dangerous. I was prey living with hunters who were deciding when to strike. Then came that Tuesday morning. I'd taken my strong pain medication the night before, the kind that helps me sleep through the nerve pain that feels like lightning bolts firing through my dead legs. I woke around 9, foggy and disoriented. I needed the bathroom urgently. I reached for my wheelchair. My hand grabbed air. I blinked, thinking I was confused that the medication was affecting my perception. I looked around. My wheelchair was gone. "Vanessa," I called out. Silence. "Vanessa!" Nothing. The house had that particular quality of emptiness that told me I was alone. Panic flooded my system, sharp and cold. Using the bed frame, I lowered myself to the floor, every muscle shaking. Then I began the most humiliating journey of my life, dragging myself across my bedroom floor toward the bathroom. Each pull forward sent fire through my lower back. My arms burned, my useless legs dragged behind me like dead weight. 15 minutes to cross 20 feet. 15 minutes of being reduced to something less than human in my own home. After using the bathroom, another humiliation I won't describe, I dragged myself toward the living room. Maybe the wheelchair was there. Maybe there was some explanation. There wasn't. But I found something else on the coffee table, a business card. Quick Cash Medical Equipment Buyers, and underneath it a receipt, dated that morning, 6 a.m. One lightly used medical wheelchair, $250. $250. My custom $8,000 wheelchair, fitted specifically to my body, sold for the price of a cheap laptop while I slept medicated and helpless in my bed. I heard the front door around 11. Laughter. Shopping bags rustling. Vanessa and Brad walked in carrying bags from expensive stores, holding fancy coffee drinks, completely carefree. They stopped dead when they saw me on the living room floor. "Mom, what are you doing down there?" Vanessa's voice held irritation, not concern, like I was deliberately inconveniencing her by being disabled on my own floor. I held up the receipt, my hand shaking. "Where is my wheelchair, Vanessa?" I watched her face carefully. I saw her calculating, deciding whether to lie. She chose defiance. Brad needed cash for an investment opportunity that couldn't wait. "It's fine, Mom. You don't actually need it as much as you pretend to." The words hung between us, final, irreversible. "You sold my wheelchair," I said slowly, trying to make sense of the impossibility of what she'd done. "While I was asleep. You watched me take my medication. You waited until you knew I'd be unconscious, and then you sold the one thing that gives me independence." "You're being so dramatic," she snapped. "You can use your walker, or you can get around without anything. I've seen you move just fine when you feel like it." Something inside me didn't just break. It shattered, atomized, became irretrievable. "After everything," I whispered. "After I worked 3 jobs to put you through college. After I gave up everything to give you a better life. After I let you live here rent-free for 2 years. This is how you repay me?" "Repay you?" Vanessa's voice went shrill, ugly. "You've held that over my head my entire life. I sacrificed so much, Vanessa. I gave up everything, Vanessa." "Well, I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask you to be a martyr. And I'm not spending the rest of my life as your caretaker because you're faking a disability for attention." There it was. The accusation I'd felt building for months, finally spoken out loud. "Faking," I repeated. "You think I'm faking?" Brad stepped forward then, emboldened. "Come on, Elena. We've both seen you stand up to reach things when you think no one's looking. You're milking this for the settlement money and the sympathy. Time to stop playing victim and take responsibility for your life." The rage that filled me was clarifying, pure. These 2 parasites standing in my house, eating my food, spending my money, were telling me my pain was theater. My disability was manipulation. My entire reality was a lie. "Get out," I said, my voice deadly calm. "Both of you, get out of my house right now." Vanessa actually laughed. "This is my home too, Mother. You invited me, remember? I have tenant rights. I'm not going anywhere." "Then I'm calling the police," I said, starting to drag myself toward my phone on the couch. Brad moved fast, blocking my path. "I don't think that's a good idea. he said, and there was a clear threat in his voice now. "You're clearly having some kind of episode. Vanessa, I think your mom needs to go rest. The medication makes her confused, doesn't it?" I understood then what they were doing. They were creating a narrative. The mentally unstable, disabled woman having a breakdown. If I called the police now, it would be my word against theirs. Two young, healthy people versus one disabled woman on pain medication. They'd paint me as irrational, confused, unreliable. They'd taken my wheelchair. Now they were trying to take my credibility. "You're right," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "I am tired. I'll go lie down." The relief on their faces was obvious. They thought they'd won. They thought I'd given up, that I was beaten. Vanessa actually smiled. "That's good, Mom. You rest. We'll talk when you're feeling more rational." I dragged myself back to my bedroom, every inch of that journey fueling my determination. Behind me, I heard Brad say, "See? She's manageable. We just need to be firm with her." I locked my door and pulled myself onto my bed. My phone was in my nightstand where I always kept it. My hands shook so violently it took 3 tries to unlock it. I could call 911, but what would I say? My daughter sold my wheelchair? That's not an emergency to them. The police would show up, there'd be a family dispute, and it would be my word against 2 people who'd call me confused and medicated. I'd lose. Then I remembered. 6 months ago, my doctor's social worker had given me a card. "Just in case," she'd said gently, her eyes kind and sad in a way that made me wonder what she'd seen in her career. "If you ever feel unsafe or exploited, call this number. Adult Protective Services." I'd tucked the card in my wallet, thinking I'd never need it, that my family would never become the kind of situation that required intervention. I found the card, stared at it. Calling this number meant admitting I'd failed as a mother. It meant officially reporting my own daughter, opening an investigation, potentially sending her to jail. It meant accepting that the child I'd raised, loved, and sacrificed for was capable of cruelty I couldn't have imagined. But what choice did I have? Stay here and wait for things to escalate? Wonder what they'd sell next. My emergency medical alert system. My prescription medications. How long before the financial exploitation turned into physical danger? My finger hovered over the call button. This was the moment. The point of no return. I pressed it. A woman answered immediately. "Adult Protective Services. This is Margaret speaking." My voice cracked. "My name is Elena Hayes. I'm 53 years old. I'm a wheelchair user, and my daughter sold my wheelchair while I was asleep. I'm currently locked in my bedroom because I don't feel safe, and I think I'm being financially exploited. I need help." Margaret's voice sharpened with focus. "Elena, are you in immediate physical danger right now?" "I don't think so. My door is locked, but I can't leave this room without my wheelchair, and my daughter and her boyfriend are in the house." "Okay, Elena, stay on the line with me. Don't hang up. I'm dispatching officers to your location right now. You're going to be okay. I'm right here with you." Those next 20 minutes stretched like hours. Margaret kept me talking, her voice steady and calm, asking me questions about my situation, how long it had been going on, whether there were other instances of abuse or exploitation. I told her everything. The financial manipulation, the gaslighting about my disability, the escalating hostility, the stolen money. She took notes of every detail, treating my situation with the gravity it deserved. "Elena, what your daughter did isn't just morally wrong, it's illegal. In this state, selling someone's medical equipment without consent is theft, and given your disability status, it constitutes vulnerable adult abuse. That's a felony." Sirens cut through the air, distant at first, then closer, then right outside. "Elena, officers are pulling up now," Margaret said. "You're safe." The pounding on my front door was thunderous. "Police! Open up!" I heard scrambling in the living room, Brad's voice saying, "What the hell?" And Vanessa's panicked, "What do we do? What did she do?" They opened the door. "We're responding to a call about vulnerable adult abuse. We need to speak with Elena Hayes immediately." "That's my mother," Vanessa said, and I could hear her switching into performance mode, her voice taking on that concerned daughter quality. She's fine, officers. She's just confused. She takes a lot of medication, and sometimes she gets disoriented and makes calls. She doesn't remember. Ma'am, an officer cut her off. We need to see Mrs. Hayes directly. Where is she? She's in her bedroom, but really, this is a misunderstanding. She's fine. Is she able to come to the door? Well, no, she needs her wheelchair for that. And where is her wheelchair, ma'am? The pause that followed was beautiful, infinite, devastating. It was being repaired, Vanessa stammered. Ma'am, we have information that the wheelchair was sold this morning for $250. Is that accurate? Another pause. I think you should speak to your supervisor, Brad said, his voice taking on that aggressive tone mediocre men use when they're cornered. This is a family matter that doesn't require police involvement. I'm a consultant, and I know how these things work. Sir, I need you to step back. Ma'am, take us to Mrs. Hayes' room, right now. Footsteps in the hallway, then a knock on my door. Mrs. Hayes, this is Officer Rodriguez with the City Police Department. Adult Protective Services contacted us about your situation. You're safe now. Can you unlock the door? I did. The door opened to reveal two officers, one male, one female, both with expressions of professional concern that shifted to visible anger when they saw me on the bed, clearly unable to reach the door easily, with no wheelchair in sight. Behind them, I saw Vanessa's face. The color drained from it completely. She went from flushed and defensive to ghost white in seconds. That's the moment she realized. That's when she understood this wasn't going to be smoothed over with excuses and manipulation. That's when she knew she'd destroyed everything. Officer Rodriguez took in the scene with the practiced eye of someone who'd seen too much. Mrs. Hayes, are you injured? Do you need medical attention? No, but I'm in significant pain. My wheelchair is gone. My daughter sold it this morning for drug money, while I was medicated and asleep. Investment money? Vanessa whispered automatically, then seemed to realize how damning any correction was. The female officer, Officer Chen, according to her name tag, turned to Vanessa with ice in her voice. Is this true? Did you sell your disabled mother's wheelchair without her knowledge or consent? Vanessa's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then, you don't understand the whole situation. She doesn't really need it all the time. She can walk with a walker. Brad had this investment opportunity that was time sensitive, and I thought, you thought you'd sell your disabled mother's medical equipment without permission to fund your boyfriend's schemes? Officer Chen's disgust was palpable. Where is the wheelchair now? Brad tried to edge toward the door. Officer Rodriguez blocked him effortlessly. Sir, stay exactly where you are. Ma'am, I asked you a question. The buyer has it, Vanessa said, her voice barely above a whisper. His number is in my phone. Officer Chen took the phone and stepped into the hall to make a call. Officer Rodriguez stayed, his presence solid and reassuring. Mrs. Hayes, how long has this type of situation been going on? I told him. Not everything. That would take hours. But enough. The financial exploitation, the gaslighting, the increasingly hostile environment, the feeling of being trapped and unsafe in my own home. Vanessa tried to interrupt 3 times. Each time, Officer Rodriguez held up his hand. You'll have your chance to speak, ma'am. Right now, I'm taking a statement from the victim. Officer Chen returned. The buyer still has the wheelchair. He's bringing it to the station right now. He's horrified and wants to cooperate fully. She turned back to Vanessa, and her expression was granite. Ma'am, you need to understand something. What you've done constitutes theft of medical equipment from a vulnerable adult. In this state, that's a Class D felony. You're going to need to come with us to answer some questions downtown. Vanessa's legs nearly buckled. What? No, wait, I live here. This is my home. You can't just arrest me in my own home for a misunderstanding. This is your mother's home. And yes, we absolutely can. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. No, Mom, tell them. Tell them you don't want to press charges. Tell them this was just a mistake. Tell them. She was begging now. All the cruelty and confidence evaporated, replaced by raw panic. I looked at my daughter. really looked at her. The little girl I'd rocked to sleep when she had nightmares. The teenager I'd stayed up with during her first heartbreak. The young woman I'd cheered for at her college graduation. She was looking at me like I was her only hope, like my love for her would override everything she'd done, everything she'd said, everything she'd stolen. Maybe the old Elena would have caved, would have said it was a misunderstanding, would have protected her one last time. But that Elena died on the living room floor, dragging herself like an animal while her daughter shopped with the money from selling her independence. "Officer Chen," I said, my voice clear and steady, "I want to press full charges for the theft, for the financial exploitation, for everything." Vanessa's face crumpled. "Mom, no, please. I'm your daughter. I'm your baby. I'm sorry. I'll fix this. I'll make it right. Please don't do this to me. Please." "You did this to yourself," I said quietly, and I felt nothing where my love for her used to live, just emptiness, clean and final. They handcuffed her, read her rights. Brad started shouting about lawyers and false charges and police harassment. Officer Rodriguez shut him down immediately. "Sir, you have the right to remain silent. I strongly suggest you use it. If you interfere with this arrest, you'll be joining her in the patrol car." A social worker arrived 30 minutes later. Patricia was her name, and she radiated competence and kindness in equal measure. She explained everything that would happen next: the investigation, the court proceedings, the protective order. She arranged for a temporary wheelchair from medical supply. She asked if I had anywhere else to stay, any other family. "No," I said. "It's just been me and Vanessa." "Not anymore," Patricia said gently. "You have a whole system now, and we're going to make sure you're safe and that this never happens again." The investigation moved quickly. Adult Protective Services was thorough. They subpoenaed my bank records and discovered that over the past 18 months, Vanessa had stolen $43,000 from me. Forged checks, unauthorized transfers, cash withdrawals with lies attached to each one, every job interview outfit, every networking event, every career coach consultation had been fiction. The money had funded Brad's crypto schemes, expensive restaurants, designer clothes, a lifestyle they'd built on my disability settlement. The district attorney filed multiple felony charges: theft of medical equipment, financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, forgery, fraud. Brad was charged as an accessory. Text messages showed he'd encouraged Vanessa, had helped her rationalize the theft, had actively participated in the gaslighting. The prosecution built an airtight case. Every document I'd hidden in my lockbox, every journal entry, every receipt became evidence of systematic abuse. Vanessa's attorney tried to negotiate a plea deal. The ADA called me to discuss it. "Mrs. Hayes, you have a voice in this process. We can take this to trial, but trials are unpredictable. The plea ensures consequences and restitution. What do you want?" I thought for 3 days. Part of me wanted to watch her face a jury, to hear 12 strangers validate that what she did was unforgivable. But another part, the part that was exhausted and needed peace, just wanted closure. What would the sentence be? 18 months in county jail, 5 years probation, full restitution plus damages, mandatory counseling, and a permanent record showing she abused a vulnerable adult. I accepted it. Not because I forgave her, but because I needed to move forward with my life. She pleaded guilty 2 weeks later. I was there, in my wheelchair in the front row. She looked at me once, tears streaming, mouthing, "I'm sorry." I looked away. Some things can't be fixed with apologies. The house felt different after her room was cleared out. Emptier, yes, but also cleaner, lighter. Like an infection had been removed and fresh air could finally circulate. Patricia connected me with a support group for family abuse survivors. I met others with similar stories: children who'd stolen from elderly parents, siblings who'd exploited disabled family members, people who'd been systematically dismantled by those who claimed to love them. We weren't alone. That realization was its own form of medicine. The restitution came through gradually. I used some of it to hire Marie, a home care assistant who treated me with respect and never once questioned my needs or my reality. She helped me understand that accepting help wasn't weakness, it was self-preservation. I started therapy with Dr. Okonkwo, who specialized in family trauma. "You didn't fail as a mother," she told me in our third session. "You gave your daughter every tool to be a good person. She chose differently. That's on her, not you." The guilt didn't vanish overnight, but slowly I started believing her. My wheelchair was returned 3 days after it was sold. The buyer delivered it personally, refusing any compensation. "I have a disabled sister," he said. "If someone did this to her, I'd want to help make it right." There are still good people. I had to keep reminding myself of that truth. Vanessa served 14 months. She was released early for good behavior. I received notification, as was my right as the victim. She was prohibited from contacting me during her probation. 6 months after her release, a letter came through her attorney. She wanted to meet, to apologize, to make amends beyond the money. The letter claimed she'd been in therapy, that she understood now, that she'd changed. I held that letter for 2 weeks, reading it obsessively, trying to determine if the remorse was genuine or just another manipulation. Dr. Okonkwo asked me the right question. "What do you want, Elena? Not what you think you should want. What do you actually want?" I wanted peace. I wanted to move forward without her weight on my shoulders. I realized I didn't need to see her to get closure. I wrote back through the attorney, short and clear. "I acknowledge your apology. I hope you've changed, but I'm not ready to see you and I may never be. I need distance to heal. Please respect that and don't contact me again." It felt cruel writing it. It felt necessary sending it. It felt right when it was done. Today, I'm okay. Not perfect, not completely healed, but okay. My life looks nothing like I imagined. I'm 53, disabled, and estranged from my only child. But I'm also stronger than I've ever been. I know my worth now. I know my disability doesn't diminish me, that needing help doesn't make me a burden, that trust broken by cruelty doesn't make me foolish. I volunteer with Adult Protective Services now, sharing my story with others who need to hear it. I help people recognize the signs before it's too late. Dozens have told me they found the courage to call for help because I did first. People ask if I regret making that call, if I wish I'd kept it in the family, given her another chance. My answer never changes. That phone call saved my life, not in a dramatic, immediate way, but in the way that matters most. It saved my dignity. It saved my future. It reminded me I deserved protection and justice, even at the cost of a relationship I'd treasured. Some people say that's cold, that blood is thicker than water, that you should always forgive family. But here's what I learned. Family isn't defined by DNA. It's defined by love, respect, and basic human decency. By that measure, Vanessa stopped being my family long before that Tuesday morning. The people who showed up afterward, Patricia, Dr. Okonkwo, Marie, my support group, even the stranger who returned my wheelchair, they became my family instead. Would I take Vanessa back if she truly changed? I don't know. That's not a question I need to answer today. Maybe not ever. What I do know, I will never again sacrifice myself to keep someone else comfortable. I will never again accept cruelty disguised as love. And I will never again question whether my pain is legitimate or my needs are real. I crawled across my floor because I had no other choice. I made it to that phone because I refused to give up. And I'm still here, still fighting, still living my life on my terms. That's not a tragedy. That's a victory. If you're watching this and someone is exploiting you, abusing you, making you question reality, please hear me. You deserve better. You deserve safety. You deserve justice. Make the call. Reach out. Save yourself. If I could do it from my bedroom floor with no wheelchair and no guarantees, you can too. You're stronger than you know. There are people waiting to help. You just have to let them. That's my story. That's the truth. And I'm finally free.